Alright, now I'm going to talk briefly about the weapons and the certs for them. The default weapon for the Vanu Sovereignty is the Sauron laser cannon. This is a very deadly weapon. I really love it, and it's pretty much the only nose gun I've been using for quite a while. I'm trying to get the Araxium medal for it. Basically, this has a very small cone of fire, but that translates to being highly accurate, being as it has no bullet drop, and while it does suffer from damage loss at range, it's got a pretty good range. This is useful for long-range sniping. It has the ability to completely destroy an enemy ESF in one clip, and because of its long-range capabilities, it actually does better than the Hailstorm Turbolaser against enemy galaxies and Liberators. So this is an all-around multi-purpose and highly accurate weapon, but because of its very low cone of fire, it does take a lot of work and skill to be accurate with this weapon. You have pretty much no margin for error, especially in dogfights as fast as they're moving. So like I say, this weapon does take a lot of practice, but it is really good at killing infantry and enemy aircraft. It has halfway decent damage against enemy vehicles, but take it from me, I wouldn't try to solo anything greater than a harasser or flash with this weapon. A lightning or especially a main battle tank you would want to stay far away from, because unless of course that tank is also under fire by a lot of other friendlies, then by all means you can contribute to the damage that way. But overall, this is not designed as an anti-vehicular weapon, so it's very good against infantry and aircraft. Here's the light particle accelerator. Basically, I really think this weapon sucks, and as you can see, I do not use it. So why am I talking about it? Well, just to give you a brief idea of what it is and why I think it sucks. Basically, it's designed to be an anti-infantry weapon, so it's the only nose gun of the Scythe that has an area of effect. So it has splash damage, basically, so again, designed to kill infantry. But both the Sauron laser cannon and Hailstorm Turbolaser cannon kill infantry much quicker if they just require that you aim. Aim isn't so much important when you got splash damage, and quite frankly, I am a big advocate of skill-based weapons that require aiming and then reward you for it. You can kill infantry a lot faster with the Hailstorm and the Sauron laser cannon. And the big problem here is, well, you may say, well, if you're new to the game, this sounds like a good option, because it has area of effect, so you can kind of help until you get your aim better. And not only that, it's a relatively cheap weapon to unlock. I think you can unlock it for maybe 500 or 250 certs, I'm not sure. But don't be fooled, it's pretty much useless in air combat. It doesn't have the tracking or the projectile speed of, the other weapons, so if you're in a dogfight, it's not very useful. And I don't really think it's very useful against vehicles either. It's pretty much only useful against infantry. Whereas both the Hailstorm and Sauron are useful against both infantry and air combat, or air targets. So yeah, I don't like this weapon. Now the Hailstorm Turbolaser is designed to be an anti-aircraft weapon. It has a very low magazine capacity, 35 by default, but it's designed to do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. So it's ideally used for close-range dogfights, as it doesn't take long at all to unload those 35 shots, and being as if all of them hit, it should completely kill a full health ESF. So if you can pull that off very quickly, get in close range with like stealth armor or something, you can wreak a lot of havoc on enemy ESFs. That's what this weapon's designed for. A lot of damage very quickly and at close range. Do note, however, if you're fighting a Galaxy or Liberator, you don't want to get into too close range with them, especially if they have gunners that can aim, because the Liberator Dalton can one-hit kill a Scythe and pretty much all ESFs, I think. Not sure about the Reaver. But, so getting in close range against those targets may not be a good idea, but this has, let's say, just amazing damage against enemy ESFs and decent damage against infantry. I've used this to kill a lot of infantry. As you can see, I've got the Araxium medal for it, so it's not a weapon to be underestimated. But again, it's close range, do a lot of damage in a short amount of time, and it has a higher cone of fire than the Sauron laser cannon, which makes it increases your chance of hitting actually in dogfights when they're moving around more. Now this is the Antares recently added gun. The major advantage of this weapon is its high magazine capacity, 110 by default. However, I don't see any real point for me to personally use it. I mean, if you find yourself tired of always having to constantly be reloading the other guns and want more ammunition, then by all means try this. But me personally, I just don't like the idea that it has a big cone of fire. I mean, yeah. But I'm not going to talk too much about it since I haven't used it. But that's just the main advantage that it has, you know, more ammunition per clip. The problem is both the Hailstorm turbo laser and the Sauron laser cannons have a higher fire rate, and while the projectile speed of the Antares is the same as the Hailstorm, the Sauron laser cannon has a higher projectile speed by 100 meters a second, which can help a lot. Okay, for your secondary weapons, there's the dual photon pods. These are great for anti-vehicular and anti-infantry roles, as well as, and if you can get a hit on an ESF, it can do amazing damage, and it also does amazing damage against aircraft, like Liberators and Galaxies. So it is all around a very decent and pretty powerful weapon when used properly. But it eats through the ammo very, very quickly, so be aware of that. And I personally, well, even though I've gotten a lot of kills with it, I've pretty much gotten sick with it because this is a weapon that doesn't really take skill. So if you're a mature player, I mean, yes, it has its uses, you know, especially against enemy sunderers or enemy vehicles, it's nice to have. But my recommendation is don't use this. Once I stopped using this on a regular basis, the number of hate tells I received went down significantly, and quite frankly, you can get kills if that's what you're after without this weapon. So this is why I think it's been several months since I've actually even used this, but overall it's still a good weapon. Then you have the external afterburner tanks. When fully started, it can greatly increase your capacity and recharge rate. So very useful if you don't want to use secondary weapons like I do and just want more maneuverability and speed. Then you have the lock-on rocket launchers. Again, I don't like these because, well, they're only useful in air-to-air combat, so if you got a ground target shooting at you, you don't have the maneuverability or speed that you would have from an afterburner tank, nor do you have the anti-ground capabilities of the dual rocket pods. And generally speaking, once you get a lock on to somebody else, if they outmaneuver or use flares, this weapon is rendered completely useless. So while when you first start flying and you get locked by another aircraft, these weapons may seem, oh, awesome, great, I gotta have these. Trust me, they're not that versatile, and I've got maybe 24 kills with them. I mean, they can have some uses, but for the most part, due to their lack of versatility and their ability to be blocked with a touch of a button by an enemy that's got decoy flares, yeah, I really don't bother. Then the other two weapons, since I haven't used them, I'm not going to talk about them. Alright, lastly, we're going to talk about the things you can cert into for weapons. For optics, I pretty much always go with the thermal optics. And while some people may say, well, night vision is cheaper, you got to understand the major difference between night vision and thermal optics. Basically, thermal optics have a huge advantage that justifies the additional 150 cert cost, and that is enemies are highlighted in bright yellow with night vision, with thermal optics, whereas in night vision, enemy soldiers and vehicles are not highlighted. So basically, night vision is like your standard, green stuff that may help you see further visually, but the thermal optics ability to highlight enemies as a bright yellow dot, or not dot, but blob or figure is a major help. And basically, I'd say about 99% of all my infantry kills, or maybe all of them, 100%, are done while I had thermal optics activated. It's just absolutely vital, and for me, I just can't live without it, especially when you consider it pretty much makes most foliage invisible. So if you have an enemy hiding in the trees, it pretty much makes the foliage invisible while turning them into a bright yellow spot, allowing you to easily kill them. Not only that, if you're using dual rocket pods, it pretty much makes the smoke from those rocket pods, as well as the smoke and stuff from flak, invisible, and while highlighting your enemy. So for taking out sky guards, taking out enemy dual burster maxes, all that kind of stuff, the ability to eliminate all that smoke and explosions from your view while highlighting your enemy as a bright yellow target makes it so much easier to aim. So the thermal optics, yes, it's 200 certs per weapon, but it is absolutely worth it. I would not use any other optics. I mean, I only had night vision certed because at one time night vision did actually highlight the enemies, but they removed that as a result to make it so that you have to choose. I mean, yes, visually you can see further with night vision than you can with thermal optics, but thermal optics has the major advantage of highlighting your enemies. For the use slots, you have magazine capacity increase or reload speed increase. Quite frankly, as a Vanu, I don't even bother with the reload speed increase because that's our natural advantage. Whereas magazine capacity can help a lot. Now, if you're playing as like the Terran Republic, who have the Mosquito, their natural advantage is magazine capacity, so maybe they might want a faster reload speed. And then with the Reaver, I think they have very slow reload speed, so reload speed may be really, really good for Reavers, but for Vanu, I don't think it is because we already have a naturally high reload speed, so I go full on magazine capacity and recommend that to all other Vanu pilots. Then for ammunition, that's just a personal preference. How much do you use this weapon? Do you find yourself always running out of ammo? You want to get the first couple certs always because they're cheap, but whether or not you fully cert it, that's just up to you. I mean, there's only been a couple times where I've ran out of ammo, but then again, I try to have it like half ammo at least. So again, it's like the vehicle timer reduction. It's how much you fly and your personal experience as to how much you need, and then make your own decisions from there. And that's pretty much it, ladies and gentlemen. That's my guide on the Scythe or Certs, or ESF Certs in general, what they do, their advantages and disadvantages. Hope you guys found this video helpful, and have a good one. Cheers.